You know, every time I'm ready to move away from the Luffy versus Katakuri fight, the story finds a way to bring me back to it. And of course, this is due to the most recent chapter in which we get a detailed explanation of Advanced Haki, more than we ever have before. So after getting this explanation, there's so many things that we can talk about as far as like hints towards Advanced Haki, and then again, going back to Luffy versus Katakuri and the hints that Katakuri was trying to give us that we didn't pick up on at the time, but now it's a clearer picture. And in a nutshell, that's One Piece. You typically get pieces of different things, and eventually it all comes together like a puzzle. And so for Haki, it hasn't been any different. It has been a power system that has been progressively revealed throughout the story. And again, the story is 947 chapters long. So one could say it's been somewhat of an arduous process, but it's definitely paying off at this point. I'm not going to mention my specific critiques about Haki and when it was revealed in the story and how long it's been taken to be fleshed out, because I think for this video that's besides the point, because today we're just going to take a deep dive into Advanced Haki and what we've seen, and based on the new explanation that we have, does that change things for you in any way? But before we do that, let's do a quick recap on everything Hyogoro was trying to teach Luffy about Advanced Haki, because this did not start in chapter 947, it started actually before this chapter, as most of us should know. In chapter 937, after Luffy and Hyogoro were placed in Queen's game, it was revealed to us that Luffy was actually trying to use an advanced level of Haki that he saw Rayleigh use. Now the Haki that he was talking about is the Haki Rayleigh used on Riskaina when he was demonstrating exactly what Haki is. We all remember that scene. So Luffy at this point, while being prisoner, was using and taking advantage of this moment to train his Haki, but he wanted to learn this advanced technique that he saw Rayleigh use. Before this, we had always assumed it was an advanced technique because we saw the admirals use it, we saw Sentomaru use it, and we saw the Boa sisters use it, but it wasn't really confirmed, but this actually confirmed it. Rayleigh used an advanced technique. Now people brought up questions as to why Rayleigh didn't teach Luffy things like this on Riskaina and he actually left early, but Rayleigh even said himself that he was only there to teach Luffy the basics, so it makes sense. So back then there were some hints to the advanced form of Haki. Rayleigh said it was like an invisible suit of armor. And in 937, when Luffy was trying everything out, he said his attacks were much lighter. This told us it was more technical than forceful. You had to learn this. It wasn't necessarily about power. Sentomaru, who we think is fairly powerful, but not stronger than Luffy, was able to use that technique. So as we got some more explanation on this advanced Haki that Luffy was trying to learn, you can say it was a bit confusing at first, because initially how Hyuo described it, it seems like he was talking about the breath of all things. And again, the breath of all things, that's when Zoro was fighting Daz's bones and Zoro was able to not cut a leaf, but then he was able to cut Daz's bone, who was steel. So essentially Zoro was able to cut what he wanted to cut. And that goes all the way back to even Zoro's sensei. He told him that the strongest sword is a blade that can protect what it wishes to protect and cut what it wishes to cut. And in the midst of his fight with Daz's bones, at his wit's end, Zoro was able to unlock the breath of all things and overcome Daz's bones. Now the thing with the breath of all things is that it's somewhat a combination of observation Haki and advanced armament. Based on the explanation we got from Hyogoro, that's the armament side of it, but also in his fight with Daz's bones, Zoro was able to dodge rocks because he knew where they would fall. And of course, that's observation Haki. So in a way, the breath of all things is a combination of observation Haki and advanced armament Haki. So Grandpa Hyogoro goes on to explain it as an ability in which you're transferring your Haki or whatever your will into your sword. He was coming at it from a perspective as a swordsman because in the past, Hyogoro was known as the Mighty Blade, and he was showing Luffy how to actually do this technique, which is simply transferring that ability or that Haki from your person or yourself to another object. The process of transferring this out of your body is forcing it out, and therefore you're letting off a shockwave as a Haki blast. The thing with this Haki is a really technical thing, so it's not just arming yourself with Bushoku and Armament Black and then punching someone like Luffy was trying to do. It's arming yourself with the Haki and letting it flow through you. That's what Hyogoro described it as the concept of flow. So it's more finesse than anything, so Luffy of course would struggle with something like this. But honestly today, what I wanted to discuss was all the information we got in chapter 947, but as I talk about it, I think about other moments in the story in which we saw different levels of armament and how it was used, right? 947 highlighted the main scenario when Rayleigh was able to take off the cuffs of Kami, and of course back then we couldn't see exactly what happened, so we assumed it was just like a fast, strong thing that Rayleigh did, because he had to take it off before it exploded, so we assumed that Rayleigh just took it off pretty quickly. There was some indication that Haki was involved, because before Rayleigh had just used like an immense level of Conqueror's Haki, but it wasn't as clear, right? Oda left it pretty open. So now in 947 947, they showed that really hakied up, went black, and basically poured his haki into the collar, and that's why it exploded. And of course, Luffy, when Hyogoro was in trouble, he was able to do the same thing. Of course, subconsciously, he doesn't really know how to do it yet. He doesn't understand the technique, but he's getting there. So this first level that Hyogoro was trying to show Luffy, of course, is just strictly pushing it out, and if you want to transfer it to another weapon, you can, but that is the process of doing it. That's what Hyogoro is trying to teach Luffy, and that's what the Admirals did in Marineford. That's what Sentomaru is doing, but there's another level to it. And for Luffy to compete with the other Yonko, it seems like that level has to be attained. Like, there's no way he's getting to that level without mastering these levels of haki, because we assume that the Yonko also have mastered these levels of haki as well. I think Big Mom is the most obvious one, because Big Mom, of course, she's known as an iron balloon, and we saw in the One Piece anime when Big Mom was opening the treasure door to her poneglyphs where Smoothie was supposedly supposed to be guarding, but she couldn't because Brook got in. Anyway, Big Mom we see use a form of Ryuo where the haki flowed through her and just blasted the door. That's exactly what Luffy's trying to learn here. But again, there's two levels to it. The level that Grandpa Hyogoro is trying to teach Luffy, and then there's another level that really showed when he took off the collar. Those are two separate things, as indicated in the chapters being 946 and 947. So just shooting out a haki burst like the Admirals did, or like Rayleigh did versus the elephant to keep him away, that's what Hyogoro did, and that's what Hyogoro is trying to show Luffy. However, with Luffy having somewhat the latent talent or just the affinity for haki, by taking the collar off, he showed that he had the capacity or the skill and went past the level that Hyogoro is trying to show him. Not saying he would be as skilled as Rayleigh, but he was doing something similar to what Rayleigh did back then. Ryuo, it's haki, right? But it's the invisible armor around your hand or your body, and it's used to protect you, and it can make your attacks more powerful. Big Mom, I believe, has that at all times. So that's her iron balloon, which nothing can really penetrate her until her mind is messed up, because I think, of course, haki is based on will, so that's what it comes down to. And Big Mom, she's only vulnerable when she's vulnerable mentally. So Ryuo, that's that outer invisible armor. The next level is when you can transfer haki into the enemy's body or your will into something else, and of course it destroys them from the inside out. That's far more powerful than just putting on the armor, because essentially you're transferring that damage, that output, directly into that object, person, whatever, and that's the level that Luffy is trying to master. And based on the story, that's the only way Luffy can really overcome Kaido or Big Mom, and we're assuming the other Yonko as well. Haki is somewhat turning into Nen right before our eyes. They're saying to gather your unnecessary haki, right? Because you're gathering your haki from around your body and you're somewhat building it up in one place, and you're using it as you can use it as offense or defense, and in Nen they have that as well. I actually love the detailed explanation of haki, and I'm not so mad as I think about it how Oda is taking his time to flesh it out. Again, the only thing is that previous battles and previous top tiers fighting, we would assume they would have this level of haki. Of course, the Admirals had it. I guess I would have liked seeing this type of haki more in combat, but of course, that's what the rest of the story is for. So before I wrap this up, I wanted to talk about some advanced Armament Haki that we've seen before, and this may be a 3-part series in which we cover Observation in another video, and then Conqueror's Haki. But right now, let's focus on Armament and different times we've seen Armament in the story, but specifically, let's talk about Katakuri, because I think one of his techniques is so underrated, because I don't think people understand how advanced that technique is, knowing what we know now. I'm not talking about Block Mochi, because we know that Block Mochi, like Katakuri said, there are levels to armament, so that of course is probably a next up, maybe not all the way like Ryuo or the flowing haki, but for Katakuri, of course, he's infusing armament with his devil fruit, so it was pretty advanced, as it did make Luffy's hand throb, and I'm thinking maybe he infused some of his will into it and it forced some of it into Luffy. That's why Luffy's hand was hurting, but I think strictly he just overpowered Luffy. I don't want to go that far, but it's possible. The technique I want to focus on is his Peerless Donuts, right? We've all been trying to figure out exactly how does that technique work, like what the hell is Katakuri doing? And Katakuri, for that technique, it seems like he let some aura or something seep around his hands, some of his mochi, and he's using that to manipulate other mochi that's not connected to his body. And out of that mochi, he creates block mochi, which is controlled by his arms. So for me, I'm like, is Katakuri using advanced armament to manipulate the haki around his body? Because if he's doing that, it's several levels to it, in which he's not only using Ryuo to manipulate the haki around his fist, he's also using the advanced armament that he infused with his devil fruit, the block mochi, and controlling it somewhat remotely. That is an insane level of Haki usage. And of course, it makes more sense now that we have all this information, but that takes a lot of skill. And Katakuri, with the mastery of his observation Haki and how he uses it with his devil fruit, that's not far-fetched at all, but just think about the level of mastery to use a technique like that. We also can't forget Sabo, in which Sabo has an entire fighting style around this form of Haki, now that we know more about it, Ryuo Soken. And with this technique, Sabo is literally trying to find the core of everything. And with his hands, how he manipulates his hands to be more sharp and more tactile, this is how he channels it. Somewhat like Fujitora, in which he uses his sword to use his gravity powers. For Sabo, this fighting style, it works best when, of course, he has his talons, his hands in the form of talons, right? So for Sabo, when he erupted the stage or the Colosseum, he tried to find the core of it. And with what we know now, Sabo 100% infused this Colosseum stage with his will and his Haki, and that's why it was eradicated. This is Sabo using the next level to armament that Luffy's trying to learn now. And of course, we saw Sabo use armament on his pipe, so of course he can transfer Haki to another weapon already. But the hints of armament were there. Oda was just taking time to build it up and flesh it out, and he didn't want to reveal all of it until he was ready. But once Luffy learns this, what techniques do you think will be enhanced with this? This is something we could talk about in another video, and what forms of Gear 4th he can use with this technique and how much stronger it makes Luffy, because someone had asked me to make a response to Joy Boy's How Strong is Luffy video, and I think I'm going to do that for fun over this weekend as well. But leave your thoughts below on Armament Haki. What do you think about it? What other instances do you think it was used that I didn't mention today as far as advanced Armament Haki? I mentioned Sentomaru, the Admirals, Sabo, Katakuri, possibly Big Mom. With Kaido, there's no indication yet as far as like advanced Armament Haki, but his defense is so crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if it is advanced armament. But leave your thoughts below on advanced armament Haki. I think it's an amazing thing, an amazing system. Oda is fleshing Haki out now. And of course, us being selfish readers, we would like to get all this information early and before now. It's 947 chapters in. It's still great, and I can't wait to learn some more about Haki, specifically Conquerors. But that's going to be another video in which we talk about advanced Conquerors Haki. Guys, leave your thoughts below. Let me know what you think. Again, like the video. Be sure to do that. The more you like, the more it helps the channel and the videos perform even better. Of course, subscribe because that helps as well. I can bring the video directly to you guys. And yeah, thank you so much for the support and the positive vibes. That helps a lot as well. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.